talking about the transportation of grain, Mr. Speaker, but the movement of livestock is part and parcel of the use of our grain on the prairies. So thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and look forward to any questions.
The honourable member for Brandon Souris will have 5 minutes for a period for questions and comments on his remarks when the House next resumes debate on the motion before the House. Now we'll go to statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for York Centre.
Mr. Speaker, today marks Philippine Independence Day, a day when the Filipino community celebrates their 119th anniversary of independence from colonial rule. This morning I had the privilege of standing with the Philippine Consul General, Mayor Tory, and Filipino community leaders proudly raising the Philippine flag at Toronto City Hall. Canada is home to one of the fastest growing Filipino communities in the world. In my riding of York Centre and across Canada, Filipino Canadians make rich contributions to their communities and help to build a better Canada for us all. I'm incredibly proud that York Centre is home to Toronto's Little Manila, as well as hosting annual events like the Salu Salo Picnic and the Taste of Manila Festival. I invite all members of this House to come and visit Little Manila to experience the vibrant food, music, and culture of the Philippines. On this poignant anniversary, I want to acknowledge the importance of the Filipino community to Canada and wish them a happy Independence Day. Malagayang Araeng Kalayan. Mabuhay!
The honourable member for Markham Unionville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mabuhay. Canada is home to vibrant Filipino community, and today Filipinos around the world will celebrate the 119th anniversary of the Declaration of Philippines Independence. Canada has a special relationship with Philippines. Not only we are trading and economic partners, but we have strong people-to-people ties as well. The Philippines continue to be top country of origin for immigrants to Canada. With over 700,000 Filipino Canadians residing in Canada, they are an immense asset to Canadian society. On behalf of the Conservative Party of Canada, I wish all those celebrating a happy Independence Day. Maligain, Aaron Nang, Kala John. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member,
the honourable member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to rise today to mark the 125th anniversary of the city of Dorval. This small community on the bank of the St. Lawrence River was first incorporated as a village on June 24, 1892. And as its slogan, Ego Porta Mundi, suggests, it has since become a door to the world with our great airport.
A quarter century prior, it was the building of railways that forged this community. The arrival of the Grand Trunk and Canadian Pacific linked the village to the rest of our country and brought an economic boom to Montreal. Those wanting to escape the downtown hustle could take the train to spend their summers in a quiet green place in the parish of Saint-Ange-de-Lachine, a place called Dorval. However, it won't be quiet this Saturday, June 24th, as we'll be celebrating its quicentennial all day and all night in Parc du Millénaire, and you're all welcome to join us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
honourable member for Elmwood-Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a Member of Parliament for Elmwood-Transcona and a former member of its Board of Directors, I'm pleased to rise and congratulate the Transcona Museum on its 50th anniversary. The museum got its start in 1967 when then City of Transcona Alderman Paul Martin moved a motion for its establishment. During its life, the museum's occupied some important spaces in Transcona history, including Roland Michener Arena and its current location in the former Transcona Municipal Office. As the main hub of Transcona's social history, the museum preserves and displays a wide variety of artifacts and documents. Most recently, it acquired ownership of the CNR locomotive 2747 from the Winnipeg Railway Museum. In April 1926, the 2747 became the first steam engine built in Western Canada, one of 38 built at the Canadian National Railway shops in Transcona. It served over 30 years before being retired to rest in Rotary Heritage Park. Time has taken its toll on this important piece of Transcona history. Thank you to the museum staff and volunteers for their work to preserve our history, including the 2747.
Honourable member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Mr. Speaker, last month, through the efforts of Richmond's sister city, Wakayama, Japan, and people like Steveston's own Jim Kojima, one of the world's largest tall ships, the majestic Kawamaru, arrived in Steveston Harbor. Many of Steveston's early Japanese settlers came from Wakayama in the late 1880s. They formed the Japanese Fishermen's Benevolent Society, and together they built a hospital, school, and martial arts center. Today, the Japanese community is a strong and tangible presence in Steveston, proud of their Japanese heritage, yet fiercely Canadian. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank the Japanese community for their many contributions to Steveston and salute Jim Kojima for his dedication and commitment for preserving Steveston's Japanese history and culture.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, Alberta will have municipal elections this fall, so now seems a fitting time to pay tribute to our current municipal officials, some of whom are not seeking re-election. Local mayors and councillors have been great allies and partners as we work together to advance the priorities of Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan. When it comes to supporting our energy sector in particular, local officials have been outspoken advocates for pipelines and for a response to the unemployment crisis facing our province. I recently welcomed our local leaders to Ottawa who are here lobbying on behalf of the Alberta Industrial Heartland Association. This association is an initiative of local municipalities advocating for the downstream part of our energy sector. Municipal officials work on issues big and small. I once called my local councillor at 11 p.m. to get his advice on dealing with an animal that had gotten into my house. And much to my surprise, he answered the phone. That was before I was elected. Whether it's dealing with political animals here in Ottawa or animals in my basement, I know that I can always count on the important partnership between my office and our local municipal officials. Thank you for your service.
The honourable member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, 1 year ago, the world was shocked by a deadly and hateful attack on Pulse nightclub, a gay bar in Orlando, Florida. Canadians sought solace at vigils across the country. At the Alberta Legislature on the closing day of the 2016 Pride Festival, I stood with hundreds of Edmontonians from all backgrounds, creeds, sexual orientations, and gender identities to mourn for the 49 innocent lives lost. 2 days ago, almost 1 year to the day of the Orlando massacre, I stood with my fellow Edmontonians to celebrate the beginning of this year's Edmonton Pride. Avec des drapeaux d'arc-en-ciel sur chaque...
With rainbow flags at every street corner, we celebrate our movement toward inclusion and equality.
We befriended 3 Orlando survivors. They and their loved ones would want us to remember our brothers, sisters, and friends in Orlando and to redouble our efforts and commitment to fight for the dignity and inclusion of LGBTQ2 people around the world. Mr. Speaker, as Canadians, we mourn together, we celebrate together, and we stand proudly for equality and inclusion as one country, one community.
Bravo. Bravo.
The honourable member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As temperatures rise and debates heat up here in Ottawa, it's clear that summer is slowly approaching. In fact, Mr. Speaker, 2017 is a year of celebration from coast to coast. And in Rivière-des-Mille-Îles, this will be no exception. There will be many activities there. First of all, throughout the summer, the market of Vieux Saint-Eustache will be showcasing local products from the Laurentians. The young and the young at heart will be able to find something to their liking there. Then you can celebrate Saint-Jean-Baptiste on June 23rd in Boisbriand, or in Saint-Eustache on June 23rd and 24th. Parties not to be missed. Finally, let's not forget the big celebration on July 1st. We'll be celebrating Canada's 150th anniversary in De Montagne and Rosemère. I'll be at the party in De Montagne. Please come out and join us. Come celebrate with family and friends. And to everyone, enjoy the summer in Rivière-des-Mille-Îles.
For Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government has been like a broken record since they began. They started off singing the We're for the Middle Class song, but their hit parade since then has been more like this. On electoral reform, promises, promises. On the infrastructure file, a little less talk and a lot more action. On the Bombardier file, money for nothing. On their partisan appointments, dirty deeds. And Mr. Speaker, they weren't dirt cheap because some of them paid $30,000. On their legislative agenda, wasted days and wasted nights. And on the public safety file, I want a new drug. but Canadians are singing a different tune. Canadians are now singing Your Smiling Face, True Blue, time for a cool change, and get it right this time. So while the Prime Minister wastes taxpayer money on summer vacations and sells Canada to foreign interests, Canadians have sheer excitement for 2019.
Honourable member for Coastal Bay, Central Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, it's with great pleasure and indeed an honour to congratulate the Canadian musical Come From Away. Last night, Come From Away's Christopher Ashley took home the Tony Award for Best Direction, and on September 11, 2001, the world was horrified to witness the evil destruction of the World Trade Center. However, there was a tremendous act of kindness and compassion shown on that day when almost 6,600 passengers were stranded in central Newfoundland for days. As true Newfoundlanders, we fed, we housed them, entertained them, and consoled them, who we called the Plain People, P-L-A-N-E, Plain People. Come From Away celebrates the genuine act of kindness, and now, as their Member of Parliament, we say thank you to the cast, the crew, and the creators of this wonderful musical for honouring us. Congratulations on your well-deserved nomination and awards this season. We thank you.
The honourable member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today, along with my colleague from Parkdale High Park, to welcome His Holiness the 17th Karmapa Ocean Trinji George on his first visit to Canada. I would like to commend His Holiness for his commitment to helping youth, for his dedication to social and environmental responsibility, and for bringing Buddhist teachings to life in the modern world. His Holiness touches many lives. Many he knows, but many he does not. Mr. Speaker, by making Buddhism and meditation accessible to people through technology and digital resources, he's helping thousands of people who suffer from mental health challenges find peace. His Holiness's impact is far-reaching and is helping change the lives of people who might otherwise suffer alone. It is a privilege to have the Tibetan Canadian Cultural Centre in my riding of Etobicoke Lakeshore. It is a vibrant community, rich in culture and tradition. When you consider the goals of the Centre and Tibetan Buddhism in general, they reflect a beautiful respect for life and harmony that transcend all cultures. Welcome to Canada, Your Holiness. May your trip be very meaningful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Flamborough-Glanbrook.
Mr. Speaker, today we welcome His Holiness the 17th Karmapa on his first visit to Canada. The Karmapa's life should remind us of the dire human rights situation in the so-called autonomous region of Tibet. At 14 years old, the Karmapa fled his home amidst the tyrannous efforts of the government of China to persecute the people of Tibet through forced assimilation and restricting religion to the point of destroying religious buildings. 16 years have passed by since then, yet observers report that conditions have become worse, not better. As we welcome the Karmapa, we ought to recall the words of former Prime Minister John Diefenbaker when he said, "I am a Canadian, free to speak without fear, free to worship in my own way, free to stand for what I think is right, free to oppose what I believe is wrong, and free to choose who will govern my country. This heritage of freedom I pledge to uphold for myself and all mankind, Mr. Speaker." Accordingly, this Liberal government needs to stand up to the People's Republic of China and advocate for a truly autonomous region for Tibetans so they may enjoy the freedoms you and I do, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Avalon.
Mr. Speaker, most people can tell you in Newfoundland that a beautiful spring is not something our province is known for. But this year, Canada 150 initiatives are starting to bring some colour to my riding of Avalon. Canada 150 anniversary gardens in the communities of Conception Harbour and Conception Bay South have been bringing our people together to celebrate our strong, proud and free country. This past fall, I joined these communities as we announced they would be 2 of 150 towns to have anniversary gardens in celebration of 150 years of Confederation. I would like to recognise Trudy Strobridge and Mayor Craig Williams of Conception Harbour and Stuart Crosby, Michael Mooney and staff of the Manuel's River Interpretation Centre for all their hard work and dedication as they patiently wait and care for these gardens as they come into bloom. Jimere Profite.
I'd like to take this opportunity to wish a happy Canada 150 to my constituents of Avalon and to all Canadians.
Honourable member for Essex.
Today I'm proud to rise in the House to congratulate members of the Windsor-Essex Emergency Medical Services team. 4 outstanding paramedics from my riding of Essex recently competed as Team Ontario at the prestigious International Paramedic Competition in the Czech Republic, where they won first place. This win is incredible as it is the team's 2nd straight win. They have made our region proud by bringing home to Windsor-Essex back-to-back gold medals. Captain Chris Kerwin, Lance Hulver, Mike Filio, and Sean May competed over a 24-hour grueling period where they showed resilience, physical endurance, and perseverance through a variety of scenarios dealing with simulated traumas and challenges they may encounter in the field. The recognition these 4 men received not only shows the caliber of the services they provide daily to our community, but also the dedication and talent of all our emergency services personnel. I want to say thank you to Chris, Lance, Mike, and Sean for their devotion and for honoring Windsor-Essex on the world stage.
Honourable member for Peace River Westlock.
Mr. Speaker, a report released today by World Vision Canada reveals that there are at least 1,200 Canadian companies importing $34 billion worth of products every year with links to child and forced labor. This is up from $26 billion in 2012. For example, coffee beans, a product used by many of us every morning, are harvested by children like Melvin in Honduras. Melvin worked 12 hours a day and started when he was only 7 years old. 2 years ago, the UK adopted the Modern Slavery Act, which requires companies to produce an annual report outlining the steps they are taking to address child and forced labor in their supply chains. Mr. Speaker, today is the World Day Against Child Labor, and Canadians are calling on this government to work with stakeholders to develop a similar supply chain transparency legislation. It's time for Canada to act and take steps to prevent the exploitation of children and people of all ages trapped in forced labor. Let's work together to end modern slavery.
The honourable member for Whitby.
Mr. Speaker, today marks the World Day Against Child Labor. Of the estimated 168 million children engaged in child labor, most live in areas affected by conflict and disaster. Forced to leave their homes, pushed into poverty and starvation, trapped in situations where their basic human rights are violated. Conflicts and disasters have a devastating impact on people's lives. As schools are destroyed and basic services are disrupted, children are often the first to suffer. Many are internally displaced and become refugees in other countries and are vulnerable to trafficking and child labor. Ultimately, millions of children are pushed into child labor by conflicts and disasters. As we try to achieve the elimination of child labor by 2025, let us be committed to work together here in this House as parliamentarians to end child labor in areas affected by conflict and disaster. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, recently I met with a manufacturer who's had to cut back shifts at his plant in Markham because of Kathleen Wynne's disastrous energy policies. And if the Prime Minister insists on imposing his national carbon tax, this small business owner will have no choice but to move his operations to the United States along with the jobs it creates. Conservatives will always be opposed to the carbon tax because we know that when small business owners are forced to flee, not only do the economic opportunity and prosperity go with them, but that global emissions aren't reduced. Exactly. What part of that does the Prime Minister not understand?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to recognize that almost all of the Conservative Party recognizes the need for a Paris Agreement and to move forward in the fight against climate change. We've put forward a strong pan-Canadian framework that demonstrates we know how to do that with carbon pricing, with working with the provinces, with investing in renewables. We very much look forward to the Leader of the Opposition's proposal on how he plans to reach those carbon targets as well.
Chef de l'Opposition.
Those targets can be reached under a Conservative government without raising
Monsieur le Président, la récente...
Mr. Speaker, the recent decision
by the Prime Minister to appease the Chinese has led to serious national security concerns. He has ignored concerns expressed and has approved the purchase of a satellite company, a Chinese company, without a comprehensive security review. When will the Prime Minister stop making decisions that will jeopardize our national security with a view simply to appeasing the Chinese? Mr. Speaker, we take very seriously our responsibilities to defend national security, and that is why all investments are subject to a rigorous process. We can say that in this case, we doubled the number of days for considering the file, and we can reassure all Canadians that the processes were followed in accordance with the law.
NORSAT itself has said that the Liberals waived a national security review. Canada's defence policy cannot include selling national security secrets to appease communist dictatorships, even if they happen to have secured the admiration of our Prime Minister. Now, experts such as the former ambassador to China and former CSIS director believe that this deal requires a formal national security review. Was waiving the review part of the cost for the Prime Minister's cash for access events with his Chinese billionaire friends?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we followed the advice given to us by our national security agencies. The member opposite knows full well that we followed the process, did our due diligence, and did our homework, and I would like to remind the member opposite that all transactions are subject to a national security review. We never have and we never will compromise national security, and the partisan jibes that the members opposite are taking are unworthy of this House, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, I can imagine the discussion in the Prime Minister's office. They talk. We've got several commissioners' jobs up for grabs, lobbying, ethics, official languages. Who will we give them to? Well, I think that they were obviously considering some good Liberals when they had those discussions. Those positions need to be people who are above any doubt because they protect Canadians. Will the Prime Minister commit to ensuring that the process is completely non-partisan? Mr. Speaker, we put in place an open, transparent, merit-based process. Our objective is to identify highly qualified candidates across the country for these positions and to represent Canada's diversity. We can ensure that more than 60% of the appointments are women, 12 are visible minorities, 10% are Aboriginals. We have changed and reformed the process after 10 years of Harper.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, Ms. Mayer showed that she had better judgment by stepping aside.
it honors our party, Mr. Speaker. Well done it because he was able to do that and he proved to everybody in the country that he had the ability to do it. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister show some leadership and assure Canadians today that the appointment process for the future government commissioners will be the watchdog of the Canadian population, will be non-partisan, transparent, and not just a way to reward Liberal donors?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of petty politics by the previous government, we put in place an open, transparent, merit-based process which we encourage all Canadians to apply to. Indeed, all members in this House should reach out to community leaders, to people they know who'd be great candidates, and urge them to apply through the merit-based process. We've been able to appoint over 60% women in the appointments we've made since coming into office, over 12% visible minorities, over 10% Indigenous. We're putting in place appointments that look like Canada, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Outremont. Will the Prime Minister confirm or deny, reporting from Der Spiegel, newspaper that he encouraged members of the G20 to remove all reference to the Paris Agreement in the joint declaration.
Deny reporting from Der Spiegel newspaper that he encouraged members of the G20 to remove all references to the Paris Agreement in the joint statement. The question is about the joint statement, nothing else.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canada in the past 18 months has been a leader in the cause of climate change and fighting climate change and putting forward the Paris Agreement. Indeed, our Environment Minister was part of actually making sure that the Paris Agreement was a success. This was an opportunity for us to lead, and we continue to see opportunities to lead. We will not let climate policy or indeed international policy be dictated by any country. We are going to push forward on understanding that building for a cleaner environment and growing the economy happen side by side together for the better of us all.
Honourable Member for Outremont.
Speaker, a Prime Minister who won't even meet the Harper targets that he used to ridicule is not a leader on climate change. Quote, what would be wrong with simply striking all mentions of the Paris Agreement from the planned G20 statement on climate? The Prime Minister asked Merkel. Did he make that ask yes or no? Any more equivocation is simply confirmation.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've been very clear. Leadership on climate change matters not just for the future of our planet, for future generations. It matters for our economy right now. That's why we're moving forward in a responsible way. But the answer to the member opposite's specific question is no, I did not say that.
Honourable Member for Outremont.
This Prime Minister also promised a nation-to-nation relationship. He promised to stop taking First Nations children to court. He vowed to end boil water advisories. He swore that he would conduct true consultations. So far, he has failed on all fronts. Can the Prime Minister explain why his government, not the Conservative government of Mr. Harper, why his government has spent almost $1 million fighting First Nations children in court? And please, spare us the talking points. These kids deserve better.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I was proud this morning to sit down with the Assembly of First Nations National Chief Perry Bellegarde and sign a memorandum of understanding how we are going to move forward tangible and concretely on delivering what a nation-to-nation relationship looks like, delivering for communities, delivering for children right across this country and Indigenous communities. The fact is we are moving forward on this extraordinarily important relationship and we are going to continue to do that.
The Honourable Member for Outremont.
De ces promesses.
One of the tangible concrete promises was that there would be institutional change. The Liberals promised to fully implement the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Will the Prime Minister stand up and affirm his support for the NDP bill that will fully entrench the UN Declaration in federal legislation? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, what is essential in nation-to-nation relations, based on respect, is to work with the First Nations, with Indigenous peoples. It's not about the government deciding. It's about working together with First Nations, with Aboriginal communities, to deliver tangible, concrete results, to deliver what they need. That is the partnership that we have been working on for the past 18 months. That is what we'll continue to work on. We're not going to be imposing solutions as the NDP would have us. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, in the Omnibus Bill, Bill C-44, has a number of mistakes, and there is one that's particularly sly. It's the elevator tax. And now we know, Mr. Speaker, that the government decided to hike taxes on alcohol, but curiously, it'll go up automatically each year. That's what we call the elevator tax. Now, Mr. Speaker, why is the government so gluttonous when it comes to taking this money away from Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, with Bill C-44, we will continue with our program plan to improve things for Canadians. In Bill C-44, we did include a way of putting a tax on some items that will be indexed to inflation. That is something that is important. We know that it's important to make these important decisions for the future of our country. The Honourable Member, I appreciate the Minister's honesty, but that's where the problem lies, because every year those taxes will go up without any parliamentarians being held accountable, without any votes. So that means it'll just go up, up, up. It's like an escalator. And no one's going to be voting on it, and that's unacceptable. It's not even a democratic principle, Mr. Speaker. So I have to ask the question again. Why is the government so greedy when it comes to taxpayers' money? The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Monsieur le Président, inflation.
Mr. Speaker, inflation is a fact. That's a reality. Our objective is to improve our economic growth. That is another fact, and that is what we're doing. It's a reality. We have growth rate of 3.7%, and it is showing that our program is working, and we will continue to work to improve the economy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Liberals are intent on ensuring that foreign investors have priority access to Canadian assets. The Liberals sold off a chain of Canadian retirement homes to Chinese investors. The Liberals disregarded national security concerns to sell off a high-tech satellite imaging company to China. The Liberals commissioned an internal report to sell off Canadian airports and ports. Is it the Minister's intention to have foreign governments own Canada's electricity grids, public transit and bridges through the Infrastructure Bank? Yes or no?
Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Well, Mr. Speaker, due to the lack of investment and inconsistent approach by the previous government, our municipalities are facing greater gridlock, which is stifling the growth of our economy. Lack of investment in affordable housing is robbing children and families of opportunities. We have committed to invest an historic amount in infrastructure to grow our economy, create jobs, as well as fill the deficit that has been left behind by the previous government. We will continue to do that, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, everyone is asking the government to take the Infrastructure Bank out of the budget bill. Experts, analysts, the provinces, elected officials from this side of the House, and now senators. They deplore ethical problems, governance, problems with the governance, risks that Canadians will be responsible for, the $35 billion. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance is refusing our demand. Now, is this simply because he's reached an agreement with Liberal donors or to please foreign investors?
The Minister of Infrastructure.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we put forward a very ambitious agenda to support our provinces, our municipalities to build the necessary infrastructure that they need, the infrastructure that should have been built a decade ago or before that, right? The role of the bank will be to mobilize institutional investors, to mobilize, pension funds, to build the infrastructure that otherwise may not get built. Our focus is to grow our economy, create jobs for the middle class, and provide opportunities for Canadians to succeed. And we'll continue to do that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals love saying one thing and doing another. The Information Commissioner agrees. They claim to be transparent but won't reveal the true cost of their carbon tax scheme. The Regina Leader Post got internal briefings of future revenue from a $50 a tonne carbon tax in 2022, but all facts are blacked out. The very nature of the Liberals' carbon tax isn't transparent. More hidden costs, more hidden details. Will the Liberals be honest and finally reveal how much their carbon tax will actually cost struggling Canadians?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, all of this information is already in the public domain. 97% of Canadians already live in jurisdictions that have either implemented a price on carbon pollution or are in the process of doing so. Pricing of carbon pollution is a market-based mechanism that allows us to reduce emissions at the lowest possible cost while stimulating innovation and job creation going forward. Last week, I was very pleased to see that members on that side of the House, most members on that side of the House, vote in favour of the Paris Agreement. Given that most of these members now acknowledge the importance of addressing climate change, through you, Mr. Speaker, I would ask that those honourable members outline their plan for achieving the Paris targets.
The honourable member for Carleton.
During the last election, the then Liberal leader ran an ad of himself walking up
a downward escalator as he made promises to the middle class on taxes. After the election, we found out what this tax escalator actually meant. It meant that beer prices were going to go up year after year to fill government coffers. That's in addition to the tax escalator on home heating fuel, groceries, and everything else. When will the government finally reverse the escalating cost of taxes on middle-class Canadians?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we absolutely want to be clear on taxes. We lowered taxes on middle-class Canadians. We raised them on the top 1%. And all I can say for sure is the people opposite, they didn't vote for that. So when we lowered taxes on middle-class Canadians, we meant it. What we're doing with this is we are just making sure that the taxes on these particular issues stay even with inflation over time. That's appropriate. We promised we would seek to make sure our tax system is fair, and that's exactly what we've done for Canadians.
Honourable member for Essex.
Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, the President of the United States officially put on notice the renegotiation of NAFTA, meaning we are currently within the 90-day window of the process. On July 17th, the U.S. will reveal their final priorities, yet Canadians still do not know what this Liberal government will prioritize. Canadian workers are tired of being left out of the conversation when their livelihoods are at stake. They deserve to have their jobs clearly defended by this government, and the clock is ticking. Will the Liberals stand up for good jobs and protect our labour standards that Canadians have fought to achieve?
Parliamentary Secretary for Canada-U.S. Relations.
Mr. Speaker, simply put, yes, we will. Trade agreements need to grow and mature as the economy grows and matures, and NAFTA has been tweaked, modified, and amended 11 times since its inception. We've invited Canadians to share their ideas and priorities on the modernization of NAFTA by going onto the applicable websites. We will always stand up for our national economic interests, Canadian values, and Canadian jobs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The President of the United States has triggered the NAFTA renegotiation process, but Canadians still don't know what the Liberals' priorities are. With all of their broken promises to protect supply management, producers, and Canadians simply don't trust them anymore. Dye-filtered milk, no real compensation for CETA, $131 million in duty-free goods, just to mention a few. Mr. Speaker, during these negotiations, will the government finally stand in support for jobs under supply management? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, simply put, yes. As we have said on several occasions, we are prepared for these negotiations. Trade agreements must evolve and mature as the economy matures. The agreement has been amended 11 times since its inception. The Prime Minister has spoken to the President several times on this important issue. We will always defend the national interest of Canada and Canada's interests.
Speaker, from the healthcare sector to the tech sector, this Liberal government seems quite content to place Chinese interests ahead of the safety of Canadians, particularly when those Chinese companies have a bad track record. Recently, we learned that the Liberals approved the sale of Norsat, a high-tech firm, to Hytera Communications from China, and that Hytera has been accused of large-scale international property theft. Why are the Liberals content with selling out our Canadian businesses to companies that have so many skeletons in their closet?
Right on.
Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member opposite for asking that question. This question has been raised several times in the House, and we've been very clear that every single transaction is subject to a national security review. We did our homework. We did our due diligence, Mr. Speaker, and we followed the advice given to us by our national security agencies, Mr. Speaker. We never have, and we never will compromise on national security.
Honourable Member for Haldeman Norfolk.
Well, Mr. Speaker, nobody would buy a car based on what it looks like from the outside. They would look under the hood or even get in and take it out for a test drive. But when selling out to the Chinese, the Liberals are approving the Hytera deal without any due diligence.
Shame.
The minister may have done a preliminary security review of the acquisition, but when it comes to the safety and security of Canadians, an in-depth review is necessary.
Right on.
Why won't the minister commit to another review of this deal to make sure that Canadians remain safe?
Here, 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 here.
The Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we will always stand up for our national interests. We will always make sure we advance the interests of all Canadians. The bottom line is this is a multi-step national security review process, which is very rigorous. The question is, did Canada's national security agencies examine this deal? Yes, they did, Mr. Speaker. Did the government follow the security agency's recommendation? Yes, we did, Mr. Speaker. We've done our due diligence, we've done our homework, and we never have, and we never will compromise on national security.
For Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister, quite frankly, is conflating a analysis memo with a full national security review. The two are very different. Right. The Honourable Member knows that. When he says that in this House, he is seeking to deceive members of this House about what is actually going on. So I ask the Honourable Member again, is this just an analysis memo? If it is not, when is he going to do a full national security review?
Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we've been very, very clear that we have listened to and followed the advice of our national security experts. We listened to the advice of the National Intelligence Agencies and security experts who actually reviewed the case and know the facts of this particular transaction. It was on their advice and recommendation that we moved forward with this transaction, Mr. Speaker. We're not going to politicize the issues under the Investment in Canada Act. We're going to make sure we follow the law and do our homework and make sure that we always protect Canada's interests.
Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Speaking of doing homework, Mr. Speaker, funnily enough, the UK authorities had a similar case involving the same investor. They did a full national security review. They added 3 pages of conditions to the approval of the investment. That's what our closest ally has done, Mr. Speaker. When will the Honourable Member listen to what our allies are doing and protect Canadian national interests?
Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we have full faith and confidence in our national security agencies. That's why we followed their advice. That is why we made sure we did our due diligence, and every transaction under the Investment in Canada Act is subject to our national security review. Bottom line, Mr. Speaker, we're also investing in the economy. We're saying we're open to investments, open to people, open to trade. That is why over the past 6 months there's been 250,000 good quality full-time jobs created in the Canadian economy, and that is our #1 priority, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke. Mr. Speaker, the buffet line is wide open for the big Canadian banks. Since assuming his responsibilities, the Finance Minister has met twice as many big bank lobbyists as his Conservative predecessor. And I doubt that these meetings were really to talk about the middle class and those who are working hard to join it. Well, Mr. Speaker, who really directs the Finance Department? Is it Bay Street? Is it the Liberal 1%? Or is it the Minister of the Bay Street 1%? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, we have a banking system in our country which works, which is very important for balance in our system. So it's necessary that we continue to ensure that it works for now and for the future. And that's why I am always happy to meet with the banks to be sure that it continues to work.
A member for Windsor West.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Minister needs to meet with Canadians so he knows who it should work for. And it's not the banks, it's for Canadians. And it's clear, Mr. Speaker, that the banks are forcing their employees to sell products Canadians don't need and sign on to loans they can't afford. Essentially, they're setting them up to fail. And guess what? This government has been lobbied by these banks hundreds of times. The government needs to force the banks to be honest with their clients. They need a moral compass. Canadians expect the Finance Minister to stand up for all Canadians and not just those at the top. Will the government force the banks to stop fleecing and scamming Canadians instead of caving to his lobbyist friends?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for his question, and I think he's absolutely right in saying that we need to be very clear that we are focused on bank regulation so that we can protect consumers. That is critically important. We will continue to focus on Canadians as we think about the banking system. We will continue to focus on ensuring that we understand the risks. That is our absolute continuing goal. We are looking into banking practices. We have a process in place at the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada in order to make sure that these banking practices are appropriate and do not treat Canadians in any way inappropriate.
The honourable member for Pickering-Uxbridge.
Last week, the Statistics Canada May jobs report highlighted that 3 times as many full-time jobs were added to the Canadian economy than was predicted. That's 77,000 new full-time jobs, Mr. Speaker. That's over 250,000 full-time jobs added to Canada's economy in the past 6 months. This shows that our plan of investing in the middle class is working, a plan that the Leader of the Opposition opposes. Could the Parliamentary Secretary please tell this House how our plan to invest in Canadians is delivering results for the middle class and those working hard to join it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Employment.
Mr. Speaker, first let me thank the member from Pickering-Uxbridge for all her hard work on this file. Mr. Speaker, Canadians elected this government to grow the economy and create good, solid middle-class jobs. And Mr. Speaker, in the last 6 months, over 250,000 full-time jobs have been created. That's the best growth rate that we've had in 15 years. We've been working with business, with innovators. We've been giving the skills to young Canadians to make sure they're ready for the jobs of today as well as the economy of tomorrow.
The honourable member for Falkirk, Adelaide Eastern.
Mr. Speaker, the Defence Minister's plan to sole source Super Hornets is spiraling out of control and taking a nosedive. Now, the former Chief of Defence Staff, Tom Lawson, is stating there's no one except this government that believes 18 Super Hornets will be useful for Canada. The Defence Minister says Boeing is no longer a trusted partner and that he is looking at many different options. But what options is he talking about? They won't buy Super Hornets from Boeing, and the Liberal website still says that they won't buy Super F-35s either. So, are the Liberals going to sole source our fighter jets from their communist friends in Beijing?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Defence. Mr. Speaker, as we saw in the new defence policy, we need 88 new fighter jets to equip our forces so that they can accomplish their missions. So, we currently have 76 jets. There is a capacity gap and a capability gap, and we will do everything we can to ensure that we have an intermediate fleet to ensure that we can fulfill our missions. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, it couldn't be any clearer than this. The government doesn't know what it's doing with the CF-18 replacements. The Liberals have said they won't buy the F-35, and now they're fighting with Boeing. And as General Lawson said this weekend, except for the government, everyone thinks that this doesn't make any sense. Can the government get its act together and immediately start the open and transparent process and stop playing useless political games for purely partisan reasons? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, it's clear that in our policy, the most important thing is the men and women of our armed forces. They are at the heart of our concerns. We need to ensure that they are trained and well equipped and that we take care of them and their health. And we will also defend the interests of our civil aerospace industry, and we will undertake negotiations to ensure that our economic interests and the interests of all Canadians are protected in Canada and around the world.
For Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, a Hamas terrorist tunnel has been discovered between 2 Gaza schools run by the UN Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA. Now, the agency, which teaches hate and glorifies Palestinian terrorist attacks against Israel, has responded disingenuously with shock. The reality, Mr. Speaker, is that UNRWA is desperate not to reform its ways, but to preserve funding from increasingly skeptical democratic donor countries. Mr. Speaker, when will the Liberals accept that Canada's $25 million Palestinian aid dollars could be delivered by better means?
The Parliamentary Secretary for International Development.
Mr. Speaker, Canada continues to be a steadfast ally of Israel and to foster peace and stability in the region. The construction and presence of tunnels under United Nations premises is unacceptable. We take very seriously any accounts of schools being used or misused, as they remain a safe place for children to learn. After discovering an old tunnel, UNRWA reported it and confirmed that there was no access to the property. Canadian officials are in communication with UNRWA and await a thorough investigation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, it's time for Canada to cut ties with the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. UNRWA schools condition Palestinian children to believe that Israel must be destroyed. The Liberals claim they'll convince UNRWA to change its ways, but the Palestinian Authority and Hamas say they will allow no change in the hateful anti-Israel curriculum. Why won't the Liberals focus on their so-called priorities like advancing gender equality and quit funding this organization intent on the destruction of Israel?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, again, I will repeat that Canada continues to be a steadfast ally of Israel and to foster peace and stability within the region. Mr. Speaker, we prefer that Palestinian children are in schools and not on the streets. We've heard this report. We will make sure that we are following and monitoring it very closely. Mr. Speaker, we take these allegations very seriously. Schools are to be a safe place for children to learn, and Canada will stay on top of this and monitor the situation closely.
The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, the former parliamentary budget officer, Kevin Page, said that the business case for the Liberals' infrastructure bank depends upon Canadians' willingness to pay additional tolls and fees. And where do those additional tolls and fees go? They go to line the pockets of wealthy investors. The infrastructure bank is kind of like reverse Robin Hood tax. It takes from average working day, everyday people and gives to the rich corporations. Everywhere they look, Canadians are being hit by additional fees and increased costs. How much more do the Liberals think Canadians can afford?
The Minister of Infrastructure.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian institutional investors and pension funds invest in other countries to create opportunities in those countries, to create jobs in those countries. So what is wrong, Mr. Speaker, if we can mobilize those very reputable, our own pension funds, as well as international investors, to invest in Canadian communities, to reduce congestion, to free up resources so we can build more affordable housing and create opportunities for Canadians. We see the opportunities here by engaging private capital and institutional investors to build.
The honourable member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Begot. Mr. Speaker, it's Public Service Week, and it's also an opportunity for public servants to note that it's been over a year of frustration with the Phoenix pay system. The Public Service Alliance is inviting its members to boycott this week's activities, and the Professional Institute of the Public Service is asking the government to stop outsourcing essential services, including pay. Over a year later, this government still hasn't been able to fix the problems with the Phoenix pay system. When will the Phoenix problems be something of the past? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Public Service. Mr. Speaker, this is National Public Service Week, and I had the pleasure to welcome employees from Public Services and Procurement Canada, as well as Shared Services Canada this morning. They know that we are deploying the resources that we need, human resources and financial resources, to overcome the challenges that were left to us by the previous government, which fired 700 public servants and which cut $70 million from the Canadian Public Services, and which showed an absolute disrespect for the public service. That's something that we will never do, our public servants.
The honourable member for Barrie-Edisville.
Mr. Speaker, access to information is one of the most important tools that Canadians have to hold any government to account. That's why it's so troubling to learn that a senior public servant at Shared Services Canada, who also happens to be the president of a Liberal riding association, was found to have deleted 398 pages of relevant email records. The law is clear, Mr. Speaker. Any person who destroys email records can be charged with a criminal offence. How was this Liberal hack able to delete this many emails without the minister's knowledge?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, the public servants I met this morning, Mr. Speaker, and the public servants that work very, very hard for the Government of Canada understand that we expect them to meet the highest level of ethical behavior and decision-making as they do in their day-to-day jobs, as set out by the Values and Ethics Code for the public sector. Shared Services Canada took this situation very seriously, immediately launched an investigation and notified the Information Commissioner, and the matter, of course, has been, as is customary, referred to the Attorney General of Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
Well, as we've seen in Ontario, it looks like illegally deleting emails is part of the Liberal DNA. I wonder who brought that practice with them from Queen's Park, Mr. Speaker. The minister seems to be condoning the actions of this Liberal hack since he's still employed by the government. And because of this, when will the minister do the right thing, recuse herself from this situation, refer this matter to the Director of Public Prosecutions, and apologize to this House for allowing this transgression to occur on her watch?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
You know what is very interesting about this question again, Mr. Speaker, is that during National Public Service Week, this opposition chooses today of all days to tar the entire public service of Canada with the same brush. We will, of course, deal with this according to regulations. We will, of course, deal with this according to the rule of law. We will, of course, deal with this with all of the rules that apply in the public service of Canada, as one would do when one respects the public service of Canada, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Order. Order. Most members in all parties are able to sit through a question period and often hear things they don't like without reacting. Order.
The honourable member for Beauport-Côte-de-Beaupré-d'Orléans-Charlevoix will please come to order. The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, an investigation by the Information Commissioner has revealed that an employee of Shared Services Canada deleted 398 pages of emails after receiving an ATIP request. Mr. Speaker, access to information is a fundamental right in our country, and so it's very troubling to learn that a request concerning the Liberal Party was dealt with this way. When will the Liberal Justice Minister recuse herself, and when will this file be referred to the Director of Public Prosecutions? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, let me reaffirm my confidence that the public, in the entire public service, that it is acting in respect of the Code of Values and Ethics of the public service. We are proud of our public servants, Mr. Speaker. This is National Public Service Week, Mr. Speaker. Shared Services Canada, with the incidents in question, has taken this very seriously, immediately launched an inquiry and advised the Information Commissioner, and indeed, as usual, this is now being sent to for further investigation. Mr. Speaker, in a couple of days, Canada will celebrate its 150th birthday. Despite important progress made over the last 150 years, women, girls, and gender-diverse persons are still facing many challenges. There's still a lot of work to do before gender equality is a real thing in Canada.
Of status of women, inform this House of our government's actions to advance gender equality and how we will leave a lasting legacy for future generations of Canadians.
Well, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this morning, along with advocates for gender equality and the member from Ottawa-Vanier, I was pleased to announce our government's investment of $18 million in a strong and vibrant women's movement. This funding will allow us to celebrate great Canadian women, invest in their projects, and also ensure that they're able to exchange their experiences and best practices. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, celebrating and highlighting these women and sharing their stories will inspire the next generation of advocates to continue the work for gender equality for the next 150 years and beyond.
The honourable member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We learned Friday that the Minister of Public Safety intends to hand over the Long Gun Registry to Quebec. The only problem is it isn't supposed to exist. The Long Gun Registry was ordered destroyed by the former Minister of Public Safety and affirmed by our Supreme Court. RCMP Deputy Commissioner Peter Henschel confirmed to Finance Committee that the registry data, except Quebec's, was destroyed October 2012, and the remaining Quebec data was destroyed April 2015. How can the minister possibly offer the Long Gun Registry database to Quebec that either doesn't exist or exists illegally?
Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman will know that this has been the subject of tremendous litigation, including a constitutional challenge launched by the Information Commissioner against what she considered to be the illegal action of the previous government. Mr. Speaker, that's the case that's before the courts, and the legislation that is now presented to the House as of the end of last week will sort out that constitutional mess bequeathed to us by the previous administration.
Honourable member for Kootenay-Columbia.
Mr. Speaker, when the Prime Minister first declared that Canada will continue to welcome refugees, people in my riding of Kootenay-Columbia ramped up their efforts to sponsor refugee families fleeing violence and persecution. People like Shauna and Barbara who are committing huge amounts of time and resources to this effort. But the government's recent decision to cap private sponsorship has blocked my constituents from helping refugee families reunite in Canada. Will the Minister of Immigration lift this ill-conceived cap and let Canadians do the right thing for refugees and their families?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're proud of our record of welcoming refugees who flee persecution and terrorism and war. Under the previous government, their PSR levels were a quarter of our levels. We've almost quadrupled the PSR, the privately sponsored refugees that come into Canada. The caps that the honourable gentleman refers to only deal with one stream within the larger stream of private sponsorship of refugees. There's the sponsorship agreement holders, the community sponsors and others that are available. We will continue to welcome those seeking protection and sanctuary in our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member from Mississauga Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of National Defence and the Chief of the Defence Staff asked for an improvement in transition services for forces members who retire or who leave the Canadian Armed Forces. They want us to close the gap. Our debt towards our forces members who retire after serving Canada is enormous. Can the Parliamentary Secretary please update this House on how the new defence policy will improve the transition for those who leave active military service? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we have a great debt to the men and women who have served our country. The new defence policy reinvents the way that we handle the transition to civilian life. A new group of experts in human resources will be established to ensure that members who leave the Canadian Armed Forces get individualized support. This new transition group will also ensure that all services are in place before the transition to civilian life, with particular attention paid to those who have been wounded or who have fallen ill.
On River Neepawa.
Mr. Speaker, the Atlantic Salmon Federation has recently urged the Liberal government to take an aggressive approach to deal with the egregious overfishing by Greenland of Canadian Atlantic salmon. Canadian Atlantic salmon numbers are critically low, greatly affecting the economy of many maritime communities. While Greenland plunders Canadian salmon while producing no salmon of their own, our stocks are becoming more difficult to maintain. When will the Liberals stand up for Atlantic Canada and put strong diplomatic and economic pressure on Greenland in order to restore Canada's Atlantic salmon and protect our fisheries?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Fisheries.
Mr. Speaker, the conservation and rebuilding of wild Atlantic salmon stocks is a shared responsibility. It is a continuous and long-term process that requires the concerted efforts of everyone involved. I am encouraged by the steps Greenland took in 2016 to strengthen its measures to manage its salmon fishery. However, there is still room for improvement. Fisheries and Oceans Canada will keep encouraging Greenland to reduce the Greenland's harvest, both bilaterally and through bodies like NASCO, the North Atlantic Salmon Conservation Organization. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, Quebec's Minister of Culture has appealed directly to the Heritage Minister concerning the CRT's terrible decision to abandon Quebec's homegrown television production. I'll quote Quebec's minister, Quebec's television production is rich, diversified, and recognized internationally. The recent CRTC decision will only hurt original Francophone production. Will the minister cancel, of her own initiative, as the law allows her to do, the CRTC's decision concerning the licenses for Série Plus and Historia? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, our government firmly believes in the importance of arts and culture, and that's why we invested over $1 billion in this sector. That's the biggest investment of the last 30 years. We've invested this money because we are convinced that arts and culture are very important as drivers of our economy. We are currently studying the impact of this CRTC decision. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. The CRTC's decision is hurting Quebec-based television production. As soon as it was published, Série Plus cancelled 3 series. The danger is that Quebec's specialized television production is at risk of disappearing, and it will be the fault of the CRTC. However, the act gives the minister the power to act of her own initiative. Will she react to this attack on Quebec's television production? Will she cancel the CRTC decision concerning the license renewal for Série Plus and Historia? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, as I have said, our government has invested over $1.9 billion in arts and culture. And that is the biggest investment in the last 30 years, and we are the only G7 country that has done that. We are aware that our creative industry is facing major challenges in the digital era, and that is why we have taken leadership on this file. And we are developing a new cultural policy that will meet these new challenges. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, this government is the government of Bay Street. And we saw that when they tried to get around the Consumer Protection Act for the advantage of Bay Street. We saw it with the Infrastructure Bank, which will be set up on Bay Street for the Liberals' Bay Street buddies. And now Ottawa is going back to court against Quebec with another bad idea, the Securities Commission. When will Ottawa stop taking Quebecers' money to try to weaken Quebec for the benefit of Bay Street? The Honourable Minister of Finance.
We respect the jurisdiction of Quebec. We believe that the cooperative capital markets regime is something that can help our economy to work well with risks in the economy. That said, we do expect to be able to continue to work with those provinces that do not participate in that and will respect Quebec's decision in that regard.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of His Holiness the 17th Karmapa. I would also like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Dale Kirby, Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. And the Honourable Brian Kenny, Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development for the province of New Brunswick.
For citizens all across the country, Canadian Armed Forces Day is an opportunity to acknowledge the sacrifices that soldiers make on our behalf.
Great pleasure that I draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of 6 members of the Canadian Forces who are taking part in Canadian Forces Day today. Major Gustave Garand, Major Warrant Officer Agata Slominska, Petty Officer 2nd Class Edward Keith Slade, Master Corporal Anthony Vale, Caporal Chef Catherine Desmarais, Leading Seaman Chad Baldwin. James, EU se lève avec un appel au règlement.
Point of order? Yes, Mr. Speaker. A question of privilege. respect in this House is a priority for every member, I believe. I believe that we would agree, and that includes the Prime Minister. During question period, the Prime Minister said that the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples would be an imposition on Indigenous peoples in this country.
Insulting statement that suggests that there's anything wrong with simply respecting Indigenous human rights in this country. Mr. Speaker, we are all bound by the rule of law in this chamber. And to even suggest that the rights of Indigenous peoples are subject to debate is troublesome, especially coming from the Prime Minister of Canada.
I thank the honourable member for Abitibi Bay James Nunavut EU for raising this point. It is more point of debate. I do not see anyone rising to respond to that.